today's video, we're looking at the most disturbing last footage of animal attacks. From a black bear that turned a campsite into a scene of horror, to a hippo that obliterated a canoe in seconds. But first, let's look at the last selfie attempt of a 28-year-old tourist in India who opened her vehicle door in tiger territory, ignoring every warning that could have saved her life. It was March 2nd, 2016, the midday sun blazing over the sal forests of Bandhavgarh National Park in Madhya Pradesh, India, when Imogen Carroll climbed into a safari jeep for what would be her final photograph. Imogen was a 28-year-old marketing coordinator from Portland, Oregon, traveling alone through India. She had arrived at Bandhavgarh 3 days earlier, specifically for the park's reputation as one of India's premier tiger reserves, boasting one of the highest densities of Bengal tigers in the world. Her stated goal, repeated to multiple guides and fellow tourists, was to get a photograph with a tiger closer than anyone else she knew had managed. Her afternoon guide, Rajesh Kumar, a 15-year park veteran, later noted in his logbook that Imogen had been persistently demanding during the booking process. She requested routes near recent tiger sightings and repeatedly asked about exiting the vehicle. When Kumar explained that leaving the jeep was strictly forbidden, covered in the standard safety briefing, and carried legal penalties and mortal risk, Imogen smiled and said she understood. Male Bengal tigers can weigh more than 500 pounds and measure up to 10 feet. Adult tigresses are typically much lighter, often between roughly 220 and 350 pounds. They possess extremely powerful bites and can accelerate to 40 miles per hour in short bursts. Most critically, tigers are ambush predators, evolved to strike from concealment with explosive force aimed at the neck and head of their prey. That morning, park officials had closed the southern loop trail following reports of a tigress with cubs exhibiting territorial behavior. Signs in Hindi and English were posted at the gate, and all registered guides had been notified via radio. Kumar showed Imogen the closure notice and explained they would take an alternate route. According to statements from the 3 other passengers in the jeep, a German couple and an Australian woman, Imogen argued for 20 minutes, insisting they had paid for the premium tiger experience and demanding to see areas where tigers had been recently spotted. Kumar chose to skirt the boundary of the closed zone, closer than protocol allowed and later reviewed internally. Around 1:15 p.m., he stopped after spotting movement in tall grass about 70 yards from the trail. Through binoculars, he identified an adult tigress, partially concealed. Passengers raised their cameras. Imogen, seated rear left, complained the tiger was too distant and obscured, repeatedly urging Kumar to move closer and raising her voice when he refused. The Australian passenger later stated that Imogen then stood up in the jeep, leaning over the roll bar to get a better angle. Kumar ordered her to sit down. She complied briefly, but within seconds, she stepped onto the running board and reached for the low side rail. The German man sitting beside her grabbed her arm, but Imogen shook him off and positioned herself standing in the open side of the vehicle, 1 foot on the running board, her body leaning outward. She raised her phone at arm's length, angling for a selfie with the tiger visible behind her. Kumar shouted at her in both Hindi and English. The other passengers were yelling. Imogen was focused on her phone screen, adjusting the angle. The tigress, which had been partially concealed in the grass, had gone completely still. A behavioral shift Kumar recognized immediately as pre-attack focus, consistent with a defensive response from a tigress protecting cubs. Seated in the front, he reached back to grab Imogen and pull her inside, but he was too far away and too late. The tigress exploded from the undergrowth with a speed that erased the distance in under 4 seconds. The tiger launched forward and upward at the last moment, aimed with predatory precision at the human standing exposed in the doorway. The impact drove Imogen backward into the jeep's interior, the tigress's front paws and claws making contact with her upper chest and shoulder. One massive paw struck the side of Imogen's face and neck with crushing force. The Jeep rocked violently, slamming the German man into the opposite rail and throwing the Australian passenger forward against the seat frame. The tiger's jaws closed around Imogen's head. The Australian passenger had been recording video on her phone. The footage, later reviewed by investigators, was handheld and violently shaking, but captured the moment of contact. The audio, though chaotic, was clear enough to reconstruct the timeline. The tigress maintained her grip for approximately 8 seconds, briefly shaking and repositioning her bite before letting go and dropping back to the ground. Kumar grabbed his radio immediately, calling park control with an emergency code. The other passengers were screaming, with the German woman reporting pain and visible contusions to her shoulder and upper arm from the impact. He started the engine and backed away quickly but cautiously, putting distance between the vehicle and the tigress without further provoking her. Park rangers, already stationed near the closed southern loop, reached Kumar's location in about 8 minutes. During that interval, Imogen displayed sporadic, agonal breathing and reflexive movements for under a minute before all visible signs of circulation ceased. A ranger with emergency medical training later confirmed absence of vital signs following this brief period of terminal activity. A local forensic medical officer later recorded multiple skull fractures, severe compression, and tearing of cervical vessels consistent with neck compression, and extensive lacerations to the scalp and face. The primary cause of death was massive cranial trauma and rapid blood loss. Park officials obtained copies of the video footage from the Australian passenger, securing it under investigation protocols. The tigress, identified by her stripe pattern, was closely monitored for weeks but not relocated, as officials determined she had acted defensively toward a perceived threat near her territory. Yet even as the tiger's hunting ground was sealed in Bandhavgarh, a camper in Canada laughed into his friend's phone about wilderness dangers, while a protective black bear sow with cubs emerged from the trees. It was August 11th, 2017. The evening sun casting long shadows through the lodgepole pines of Jasper National Park in Alberta, when Colton Moreau stepped out of his tent for the last time. Colton was a 34-year-old electrician from Edmonton, a quiet man known among friends for his steady work ethic and occasional dry humor. This weekend trip to Jasper had been planned for weeks with his longtime friend, Marcus Gatz, as a low-key escape from the city. The two men had arrived at the Whistler's Campground, a front country site with designated tent pads, fire rings, and centralized bear lockers, around 4:30 p.m. They paid at the self-registration kiosk, where prominent signage warned visitors of recent black bear activity in the area, with instructions to cook only in designated areas, secure all food and other scented items in bear lockers immediately after use, and carry bear spray at all times. American black bears can weigh up to and over 600 pounds, with females typically smaller than males. They are highly food-motivated and possess an extraordinary sense of smell, which in ideal conditions allows them to detect food odors from up to a mile away. While generally less aggressive than grizzlies, black bear sows with cubs are extremely protective and account for the majority of defensive attacks on humans. As Colton and Marcus set up tents on adjacent pads, the late afternoon stayed calm and warm. Marcus said they cooked hot dogs and canned beans on a camp stove near the fire ring, finishing around 7 p.m. Cleanup was rushed. He later admitted they focused more on the beer cooler than washing dishes. Plates and utensils were lightly rinsed with minimal soap and left on the picnic table, leaving scented items exposed, while the cooler was secured in a bear locker about 20 yards away. The smell of cooked meat lingered around the site. Marcus had been casually recording short video clips throughout the evening on his phone, capturing Colton setting up the tent, making various jokes. The footage showed a relaxed atmosphere, two friends enjoying an ordinary camping trip. Marcus walked toward the communal restroom area, leaving Colton sitting in a folding chair outside his tent. Colton had his bear spray stored inside the tent. 3 campsites away, A family with young children suddenly shouted warnings. A woman's voice carried clearly through the trees, yelling that a bear was coming through the sights. Marcus, still holding his phone, turned and saw the black bear sow emerge from the tree line, roughly 40 yards behind Colton's tent. Two cubs scrambled up a nearby pine tree. The sow, estimated later at around 250 pounds, moved with purpose between the campsites. Colton stood up from his chair and turned toward the commotion. Marcus, who had instinctively raised his phone to record, captured Colton's reaction as he spotted the bear. The video showed Colton taking 2 steps backward toward his tent, then freezing as the sow accelerated into a charge. She closed the distance with startling speed, covering approximately 30 feet in less than 3 seconds. Colton raised his arms defensively. The bear did not slow. The phone footage ended abruptly as the sow made contact, the image jerking violently before going black. Marcus later stated he dropped the phone as he began shouting and retreating, understanding that approaching could trigger a second defensive charge. From his position now roughly 40 yards away, he witnessed the rest of the attack clearly. The sow hit Colton with her full body weight, the impact driving him backward to the ground near the tent's entrance. She pinned him flat on his back, her forelimbs braced on his shoulders, keeping him immobilized against the ground. The attack continued for approximately 25 to 35 seconds. After briefly stepping back for a moment, she re-engaged, lunging forward once more to deliver additional head-directed bites before disengaging. The sow stepped back, huffing and swinging her head toward the tree where her cubs had retreated. Colton lay motionless on his back. His face and scalp were severely torn. The bear circled once, then moved back toward the tree line. Marcus and 2 other campers who had witnessed the attack from nearby sites began shouting for help, while maintaining distance from both Colton and the bear. Multiple people called the wildlife emergency dispatch simultaneously. Rangers and emergency medical services arrived within 10 minutes, approximately 9 minutes after the first call. They secured the area with noise deterrents and confirmed the sow and cubs had moved away from the immediate vicinity. Paramedics reached Colton and found him unresponsive with no pulse. He had sustained massive trauma to the skull, face, and scalp, with deep bite wounds consistent with multiple head bites and claw lacerations to both arms and hands. Bleeding from head wounds had been severe. He was pronounced dead at the scene at 9:04 p.m. The medical examiner's report later confirmed that Colton had died from catastrophic cranial trauma and rapid blood loss. Authorities closed the campground for 72 hours, while wildlife officers tracked the sow and cubs, documented the scene, and collected witness statements. The bears were not euthanized, as the attack was deemed defensive maternal behavior. Marcus declined media interviews. His phone was recovered, its footage copied under chain of custody, and reviewed by investigators. As the campground warnings in Canada were overlooked and ended in a brutal mauling, in India, a tourist leaned past the temple barrier, unaware of the massive crocodile rising from the water beneath him. It was November 5th, 2015, and the sacred Ganges River flowed past the ancient stone ghats of Varanasi. Daniel Ramos, a 45-year-old management consultant from Phoenix, Arizona, stood at the edge of a temple platform, his frustration visible to the dozen pilgrims and tourists. Daniel was known among his colleagues at Deloitte for his assertive personality and tendency to challenge restrictions he deemed arbitrary. He had arrived in Varanasi 3 days earlier as part of a 2-week solo tour through northern India, specifically timing his visit to witness the evening Ganga Aarti ceremony. His itinerary showed plans to photograph ritual bathing at multiple ghats. Daniel had extensive international travel experience, having visited 47 countries over the past decade. His Instagram account showed him at various religious sites, often positioning himself closer to sacred spaces than typical tourists, a pattern that had occasionally resulted in confrontations with local guides. Mugger crocodiles are formidable predators native to the Indian subcontinent. Adults typically grow up to 12 feet in length and weigh several hundred pounds. Unlike saltwater or Nile crocodiles, muggers are highly adaptable to human-altered environments and frequently inhabit rivers near population centers. They are ambush hunters capable of explosive upward lunges from submerged positions, using their powerful tails to propel their bodies toward prey at the surface. Temple staff had posted multilingual warning signs at 3 locations along the Ghat that morning, specifically noting increased crocodile sightings near the ritual bathing areas. Local priests had advised visitors to remain at least 10 feet back from the water's edge, a distance marked by a faded yellow paint line on the stone platform. 2 British tourists who witnessed the incident later told investigators that temple guards had specifically instructed Daniel to stay behind the marked barrier approximately 15 minutes before the attack. Daniel had argued with the staff, his voice carrying across the Ghat as he insisted the restrictions prevented him from capturing proper photographs of the river. Witnesses described him as agitated, but ultimately compliant, remaining on the upper platform rather than descending the wet steps where pilgrims performed ablutions. However, security footage and eyewitness accounts confirmed he repeatedly approached the platform's edge, leaning forward to point at boats and gesturing toward the water while speaking to another tourist about composition angles for photography. His final position placed his upper body extended past the stone lip, where boat wakes caused water levels to rise and fall unpredictably. The temple's CCTV camera recorded the attack. The footage was grainy and low frame rate, but included a timestamp that established the basic sequence of events. At 4:23 p.m., Daniel stood upright at the platform edge, his camera raised in his right hand, while his left arm gestured toward a passing boat. The water directly below appeared empty. Then, in a single frame transition, a massive crocodile surged upward from the drop-off, its jaws already open as it broke the surface. The animal's jaws and upper shoulders cleared the waterline as it struck. The crocodile first seized Daniel's extended left forearm, the bite clamping just below the elbow, before the force of the lunge pulled him forward toward the edge. As Daniel was dragged off balance and over the stone lip, the crocodile's grip shifted, bringing Daniel's upper torso into contact with the jaws as he was pulled into the river. The footage showed Daniel's body being yanked forward violently, his legs lifting off the platform as the crocodile's weight pulled him over the edge. The water erupted in thrashing foam. Eyewitnesses on adjacent ghats saw the crocodile maintain its grip and drag Daniel into deeper water, its dark shape visible below the surface as it moved away from shore. About 40 feet from the Ghat, witnesses reported the animal performing a violent death roll against a submerged stone pillar, using it as leverage and causing the traumatic amputation of Daniel's left forearm. Within 10 seconds, both submerged completely. The crocodile surfaced twice more in the next minute, with Daniel partially pinned against submerged masonry, then executed another forceful roll and pulled him under for the final time. Temple security and multiple bystanders called emergency services immediately, their overlapping reports creating confusion about the exact location. River rescue teams arrived 15 minutes after the initial call, but could not attempt recovery due to strong current, visibility measured at less than 2 feet, and confirmed crocodile presence. The animal surfaced 3 more times over the next hour, each appearance preventing rescue personnel from entering the water. Daniel's body was recovered the following morning, lodged against a submerged pillar 200 yards downstream. A post-mortem examination conducted by a government forensic medical officer documented severe crushing injuries to the left thorax with multiple rib fractures, traumatic amputation of the left forearm below the elbow, extensive lacerations consistent with crocodile dentition, and cause of death attributed to combined catastrophic trauma and drowning. Local authorities secured the footage and installed additional warning signs with increased security presence during peak visiting hours. Wildlife officials reported no further sightings of a similar crocodile in the immediate Ghat area. Daniel's family issued no public statement, but arranged for his remains to be returned to Phoenix for a private funeral service, attended by immediate family and close colleagues. However, even as the temple gods bore witness to a death roll that ended a vacation, in Alaska, a local running errands ignored frantic warnings from bystanders, her phone raised toward the bull moose that had begun pawing violently. It was October 9th, 2014, and the afternoon light cast long shadows across the Fred Meyer parking lot in Anchorage, Alaska. A crowd was forming near the cart return area, witnessing the animal that locals knew to fear during rutting season. Helga Soren, 52, had lived in Anchorage for 23 years, having moved from Minnesota shortly after her divorce. She had 2 adult daughters living in Seattle and a small circle of friends from her church group. Her Facebook account showed frequent posts about Alaskan wildlife, mostly photographs taken from safe distances or through car windows. Her supervisor later told investigators that Helga had requested to leave work an hour early that day to run errands before an evening church meeting. Her routine typically included grocery shopping on Thursdays, a pattern she had maintained for years. Alaskan moose are the largest members of the deer family in North America, with adult bulls standing over 6 feet tall at the shoulder and weighing between 1,200 and 1,600 pounds. Their front legs, equipped with incredibly powerful muscles, can deliver enormous blunt force, enough to cause catastrophic internal injuries. During fall rutting season, bulls experience dramatic hormonal changes that increase aggression levels significantly, making them particularly dangerous to humans. By the time Helga arrived, about 15 people were scattered around the parking lot, mostly near vehicles or the store entrance. The bull moose stood between a white pickup and a silver sedan, lowering its head to sniff the pavement. Although guidelines recommend staying at least 50 feet away, Helga positioned herself about 20 feet off, phone raised to chest height, recording. A man loading lumber gestured for her to move back. She glanced briefly but continued forward. The moose, already showing clear agitation, flattened its ears against its skull. Helga adjusted her position again, moving slightly to her right. The bull's head remained low, his eyes fixed on her as she moved. Then, with no additional warning, the moose lunged forward and launched a devastating front leg kick, his right hoof driving forward like a battering ram. The kick struck Helga in the left side of her torso, just below her rib cage, and continued through to her left hip. The force violently knocked her backward, partially lifting her off balance, sending her crashing down onto the pavement a short distance away. A dashcam in a vehicle parked 3 spaces away captured the strike from a side angle, corroborating witness reports and showing her body crumpling against the pavement. As she lay on the ground, the moose stepped forward and delivered a couple of downward stomps with its front hooves to her torso and lower body before stepping back. She remained motionless. The moose stepped backward but did not leave the immediate area, instead moving laterally between parked cars while continuing to display agitation. Several bystanders moved toward Helga, but stopped when the moose turned in their direction, his proximity making any rescue attempt immediately dangerous. Witnesses later described seeing her left leg move slightly and hearing labored breathing sounds, but her eyes remained closed, and she made no attempt to stand or call for help. When the moose finally wandered toward the far end of the parking lot, 2 men approached Helga, one of them a physician's assistant who happened to be shopping. He immediately noted her deteriorated condition. He instructed bystanders not to move her and to keep watch for the moose's return. Multiple witnesses called 911 within seconds of the initial strike. Fire department paramedics arrived 7 minutes later, finding Helga unconscious but still breathing. They immobilized her spine before transport and departed for the hospital. The moose had by then moved into the wooded area behind the shopping center and was no longer visible. Helga died in the emergency department at 4:31 p.m., 44 minutes after the attack. Emergency clinicians performed rapid imaging and initiated emergency interventions, but the internal damage and catastrophic blood loss were not survivable. The attending physician documented that her internal bleeding resulted from multiple high-force impacts, including the initial kick, ground impact, and subsequent stomping. Officials investigated the incident, monitored the moose, issued public safety guidance, and seized existing footage of the incident. Helga's daughters released a brief statement through the hospital requesting privacy. As Helga's attempt to record a rutting moose ended in disaster in Zimbabwe, a caregiver stood upright in her canoe, drifting closer to the submerged hippo hidden beneath the reeds. It was June 21st, 2013, and the Zambezi River moved with deceptive calm through the wilderness of northern Zimbabwe. Nadia Kamanzi, a 38-year-old caregiver from Harare, sat in the middle position of an aluminum canoe carrying 6 passengers downstream. Nadia worked for the Mtimba family, caring for their 2 children, ages 7 and 9, sometimes traveling with them when their parents were away. Her employer, James Mtimba, told investigators she had requested this river trip, eager to film wildlife for her YouTube channel. She had bought a chest-mounted camera 3 months earlier and posted videos of Victoria Falls and safari drives. The Mtimba children sat in the canoe behind her, their parents in a separate canoe 50 yards ahead in the procession. The river stretched wide and brown between banks thick with papyrus and fever trees, the current moving at roughly 3 miles per hour as the canoe group navigated a section known for dense hippo populations. Large adult hippos can weigh several thousand pounds in extreme cases and, despite their bulk, can reach surprising speeds on land. In water, they are deceptively agile, their jaws open wide, and their large canines and tusks combined with their bite inflict catastrophic damage. They perceive boats as territorial threats and will attack without warning, often targeting the vessel rather than occupants initially, though their size and power make this distinction meaningless in practical terms. Before departure, the tour operator held a 20-minute safety briefing. The lead guide emphasized hippo dangers, instructing passengers to stay seated and quiet near hippo areas, and distributed a rules sheet banning standing in canoes, loud noises, and flash photography. Nadia signed a form acknowledging she understood. About 40 yards into the narrow section, Nadia's canoe drifted right toward the reeds. The guide corrected it with several paddle strokes. During this, Nadia stood partially to adjust her chest-mounted camera. The guide sharply told her to sit. She remained standing for about 5 seconds before lowering herself back into her seat. The chest camera footage, recovered intact after the incident, captured the next 12 seconds in chaotic detail. The frame showed murky water and distant reeds. Then, without warning, an enormous gray mass surged horizontally just beneath the surface before driving upward directly ahead and to the right of the canoe. A bull hippo thrusting up from the water, its mouth already open in a threat display. The hippo covered the distance to the canoe in seconds, its bulk creating a bow wave that rocked the vessel before impact. The camera recorded the moment of collision, a tremendous jarring shock accompanied by the sound of aluminum collapsing. The hippo's head and upper jaw struck the starboard side of the canoe approximately 2 feet from the bow, the impact tilting the vessel violently to the left. Nadia's camera showed a chaotic blur of water and sky as she was thrown sideways, her scream audible on the audio track along with the shouts of the 2 children behind her. The canoe flipped completely, its hull rising above the waterline before slamming down upside down on the surface. All 6 occupants were thrown into the river. The chest camera continued recording underwater, capturing nothing but turbulent brown water, bubbles, and muffled sounds of thrashing. Nadia's body surfaced briefly approximately 15 feet from the overturned vessel, according to witnesses. Her arms moved weakly, attempting to swim, but her head lolled to one side in a manner they described as unnatural. The agitated hippo surfaced twice near the debris of paddles, life jackets, and personal items. The guide, holding the overturned canoe, shouted for passengers to swim to the opposite bank. The 2 Mtimba children, wearing life jackets, were rescued by passengers from another canoe that returned to help. Nadia did not resurface after her initial appearance. Witnesses from 2 other canoes reported seeing her body go under near a section of broken aluminum, believed to be caught on a bent section of the canoe's aluminum frame, though the churning water and continued hippo presence prevented immediate rescue attempts. The lead guide, coordinating from his position in the canoe, instructed all vessels to move to the southern bank while he radioed for emergency assistance. Searches for Nadia were initially blocked by the Hippo, which surfaced unpredictably. About 8 minutes after the attack, the bull submerged and moved upstream, allowing fishermen and guides to search. They found her body 15 minutes after impact, wedged under the overturned canoe in 7 feet of water, unresponsive. Emergency personnel arrived by boat 23 minutes after the call, but Nadia showed no pulse, with fixed, dilated pupils. Post-mortem examination revealed massive blunt force trauma to her right shoulder and head, skull depression fractures from the Hippo or canoe, 3 broken ribs, right clavicle trauma, and drowning as a contributing factor. The tour company suspended operations for 2 weeks following the incident, while safety protocols underwent review. James Mutimba and his family received financial compensation through the operator's insurance and relocated to South Africa 6 months later, citing trauma from the incident, and asked for deletion of the footage. Thanks for watching. If you liked these stories, click here.